Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon which part of the world you're joining in from. Welcome to the podcast, The Future of Web. My name is Alek and I'm the host. So, this podcast is all about Web3 technologies. And the idea is to educate people to increase understanding, adoption about Web3. Here we bring people like founders, investors, lawyers today, even as consultants, designers, community managers, whoever is working in Web3 space, and we invite them and talk about how their product or service is impacting this space again. So again, my name is Alek. I'm the founder of Animal Solution, which is a Web3 focused design and development agency, right? And so we do a lot of cool stuff. Go check out our LinkedIn page or website. You'll have a lot of information there, or connect with me on LinkedIn. So today we are going to have a panel, and we're going to talk. The core topic for today's panel is regulatory as well as taxation. But unfortunately, the person taking care of the tax side could not join us today because of certain urgency at her home at the last minute. So we'll have the lawyers today, and I will start introducing the guests now. So we have Chandan today, who is a lawyer based out of Delhi. His core areas of interest are criminal, commercial, and Web3. Chandan is also building his expertise in the legal side of Web3 and blockchain. So let me just quickly invite Chandan. Hi, Chandan. How are you?
Hi, Alec. How are you? I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction. Hi,
Hey,
everybody.
thank you.
Good
Hey,
morning.
and
Good
thank.
afternoon.
Yes, yes. We have wider audience, and thank
Yes.
you so much, Chandan, for coming in on a Saturday. And we have
Thank
one
you
more
for
guest
inviting me.
today. Yeah, pleasure. And we have one more guest today. Who should be joining soon. So I will introduce him once he joins in. He's also from the law side. So let's begin, Chandan. So first
Yes.
of all, yeah. So it's just you and me instead of the panel today. But anyhow, I think we'll have a much more deeper and deep dive conversation around law, how laws sees Web3 and Web3. I mean like cryptocurrencies, DAOs, NFTs, and stuff like that, right? So, but before we actually deep dive into the actual core of this subject, get to know you a little bit. So, can you share a bit about yourself, which you usually don't share with others? Something like a secret. I know lawyers might have a lot, but something which you can openly share.
Openly share. So,
Yeah.
see, talking about the Web3, I think I'm a completely novice in this area. There are people who have been far more experienced than me, and they have, joined the revolution of blockchain way before. My interest only, I mean, it peaked during the lockdown,
Mm-hmm.
and partner of our firm, Ishan Pandey and Mudit, they both wrote a
Mm-hmm.
paper on smart contracts and its use in the banking sector. The entire Yes Bank scenario in which Yes Bank used the blockchain
Mm-hmm.
to carry out the financial transactions. So that
Uh-huh.
really got my interest. That okay, let me go and read about it. So I started reading and I started understanding, and that's how my Web3 journey began. So it's only 3 years down the entire Web3, and I feel that there is a lot to learn. And that's all about me. I mean, talking about the Web3, and let's leave the personal things for some other day. We'll have and discuss it over a cup of coffee.
Absolutely, absolutely. But thank you so much. So it gives an insight. Like so you have understood Web3 and the growth that it has had over a period of time in India, right? So that's
Correct, correct,
interesting,
correct.
and it'll be nice to know from you what sort of growth has it seen. So from the point you got interested in blockchain, right? When you started reading about it, and then your partners at TYT Partners, right? I want to bring that up as well.
Correct.
Uh, from your company, uh, wrote that paper. So, but what intrigued you? Okay, it's what is interesting. You that's how you got connected. But why blockchain? There's several other industries, right?
So tech side has always interested me. Even when I started
Mm-hmm.
practicing long time ago, 8 years ago, I started. The tech side was something which was always very fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Artificial intelligence was something which is coming right now. I mean, I started reading about AI way back in 2014 when I was still in college. So the tech side, I mean, not just tech as in the tech how it improves other people, I mean, the world's life, but tech as in general. I'm a fan of small tech items. You talk about smartwatches, I'll buy them in bulk. You talk about the wireless earphones, I'll buy them in three, four. I'll keep on checking which one is good, which one is bad. and these kind of stuff. So this is a basic quirk that I have, which then dive deeper into the academic area, and then I started getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the tech side of how tech works and how tech and law together intersect. What are the challenges and how you basically frame the entire framework around it. So
Interesting.
it's
So you
basically my
so
work, which is now getting an academic interest.
interesting. So do we see a lawyer from Web3 unboxing all these devices and
No,
coming
no,
up
never.
with beat?
I'm too shy for that. Too shy for that. I
Yeah,
just
man.
use it
Yeah.
for my own purposes.
Interesting.
Too camera shy.
That Yeah, that's very what you can do, without cameras as well. But again,
Yeah,
we'll talk about that sometime later. So
yeah.
let's do a little more, deep dive into the questions, and let's see how the law takes. Because see, I run a Web3 company, right? Even then, whatever I want to read, it's primarily tech side. How what are the new advancements, and how NFTs are growing, how can metaverse really be beneficial, utilities, and and regulations around that. But the law side per se, it's something that I would say normal people like me don't really get into. Probably could be the jargon, knowledge, and the inclination as well,
Hmm.
right? So let's start with the challenges. What challenges starting today, do you see there are, in regulating Web3 in India?
Okay. So let's get one thing very straight. India is a very diverse country. In 100
Yes.
kilometers, the entire cultural, the language, the food, everything changes. That
Yeah.
is the major challenge in regulating the Web3 environment. That is
Yeah.
begins with knowledge. The
Mm-hmm.
more you start educating people about how Web3 works, that is the time when you start giving out more regulations. Right now it is about explaining to a person that okay, cryptocurrency is not just linked to terror funding and other nefarious activities, it also has multiple other benefits. This is
Mm-hmm.
a fact which takes the entire energy of my being to explain it to someone in the higher authorities, the investigating agencies, just to make them understand that the client that I'm representing is not a person who is who's a victim. He is not the perpetrator. So that starts with one thing. That is the first thing is education. The population is
Mm-hmm.
not that educated when it comes to Web. Of course, it's because of it's still at a very nascent stage. People are not that interested in learning about all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it is already we have already exhausted our other forms of knowledges. We are learning something about a different thing. People are already
Yeah.
interested in their businesses. They're already invested deep and heavy in other forms of businesses. So there are only a handful of people who are right now working in the Web3 environment. Talking about the demographic, we have about say out of 100 there are only 20 people working. So the major challenge is regulating this entire ecosystem given the demographic background that we have.
Mm-hmm.
If you have to regulate it in such a way that the remotest village in India who are now using Paytm can get a basic understanding of how blockchain works, that is the day when you will have more regulations. Before that, it is only going to be in a particular cluster. Before that, it is only going to cater to a particular kind of industries. If we are talking about the larger perspective of blockchain, regulating blockchain, it's going to take a lot of time.
Interesting. So I think so that's a very big challenge, the demography. So what has always been the challenge, is then so-called advantage also of the country. But 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 the education as well as the financial divide is so big, so even now in certain remote parts of the country, there are a lot of things which are not available, as basic as say maybe banking systems to some extent. It has increased to a very very big extent, but it's still not there everywhere, right? It's a And even if it is there, the accessibility and the knowledge how to use the simple basic transaction in the banking system, it'll take time, right? So at that point in time, while one end is moving towards cryptocurrencies, DAOs, NFTs, this new shining object, which is offering a lot of utility as well. How would, from a government point of view, well, I'm sure being a lawyer, you would interact with a lot of people or read about papers. How are they dealing with it, like, and what are the benefits once it is kind of dealt with, because it's a large demographic, a lot of different influences also there. How would it impact, right?
Hmm.
Like, so the question primarily is, like, how is the government kind of taking care of it, and with the current stance, and how they're moving forward, and what are the benefits do you see from the people as well as government side once this is implemented?
Great question. So see,
Thank you.
the government is always very bullish when it comes to blockchain. Like I said, in clusters, the government is working. The central government is working in the NPCI entire thing. We have certainly, uh, you know, uh, gone through various news articles, etc., in which NPCI invited applications for people who are experts in blockchain to develop something, so develop a software or maybe some kind of that. That is still not been disclosed to everybody. But that is there. That is government is very keenly working. Now there are different clusters when it comes to the state governments, and this started way back, I think, in 2018 when the Niti Aayog came up with their blockchain strategy part one. In that, they explained that Chandigarh, Andhra Pradesh, some parts in Telangana, they are issuing certificates on blockchain. We have recently seen how Maharashtra government is issuing caste certificates on blockchain. So that is how this
Yes.
different state governments are working, issuing caste certificates. In Chandigarh, they are working, integrating the records. In Hyderabad, Telangana, they are working
Telangana,
again,
yeah.
integrating the land records
Land
in the
records.
blockchain. So that is
Yeah.
how the gradual process is beginning. It
Mm-hmm.
starts with one step. So you have to take a step so that, see, again, this is where the demography comes into place. One cluster does not need something. Say Maharashtra needs, as on date, to convert everything, all the caste certificates on blockchain because that is the need of their city, their
Mm.
state. In
Yeah.
Hyderabad, you don't need that.
Yeah.
In Hyderabad, you might probably need to convert everything, all the land which is available over there, on a blockchain, and on a futuristic perspective.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Yeah.
something which they have in their mind. Okay, right now we don't need it on, don't need on the caste thing. We need on lands. Let's convert the land first. Maharashtra is saying let's convert our caste certificates first. Then we look after the land. So that is how gradually they are, one, educating the populace. Second,
Mm-hmm.
using the technology for their benefit. 10 years down the line, you will not be able to, manipulate any kind of caste certificates, etc., or any kind of land record, because land is very important. If
Mm-hmm.
you do a fraction of mistake when it comes to the land, fraction of changing the records on the land, it's a loss. It's a loss to the
Yeah.
country. It's a loss to that particular person. It's also a loss to the government. So that is how gradually these things are beginning. And there are other, stuff like CBC issuing certificates on blockchain. There are various higher educational, institutes like IITs, etc. Those government institutions, they are planning on introducing certificates on blockchain. So this is
Yeah.
how the gradual steps are being taken, and this is what the government is doing. Now, when it comes to cryptocurrency, that's a different stance also.
Yeah.
That's completely different from what we have seen when it comes to the how bullish the government is on blockchain and how when it comes to cryptocurrency. The reason, what I feel, what I have studied so far, is only because it has a potential to disrupt the entire stable financial market.
Yeah.
We have to consider that we are a very young independent country, only 75 years. If you're talking about European nations, if you're talking about the US, etc., they have been independent for far, far, far longer than us. They have
Yeah.
developed their banking system far better than us. They have taken a lot of time to build their institutions. We are young. We have to tread
Yeah.
carefully. If we do not tread carefully, then we'll start seeing what has happened in the entire US with all the markets collapsing. We were saved that point in time. Of course, there were investments made from our side, but nothing such came out from India that, there was an exchange like that and it completely collapsed.
Yeah.
So then,
So
when
so.
it comes to the cryptocurrency, we are
Mm-hmm.
taking a very, 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 cautious move. I wouldn't say that they are not doing anything on that part. They are making a very
Uh-huh.
cautious move. It began with taxing digital cryptocurrencies. It began with defining virtual digital assets. So
Mm-hmm.
that's very gradual steps we are moving, and we cannot expect them to do it in a rush, because if you start doing everything in a rush, it's going to be a soup. We'll all end up in being a soup.
Oh yeah, so that part is fairly understandable from a general population point of view, that from a government they have to take care of all the 1.4, 1.5, every person individual within the country, rather than just a handful of people who are kind of spearheading this domain. But from an innovation point of view, do you see that these regulations taking time to come out kind of slows down the innovation? Right, I mean, from India point of view, that we have seen few people or businesses moving out, Do you think it's kind of slows that down, or they coming back, once the regulation and the environment is conducive? This is primarily with cryptocurrencies, but Web3 in a general, has NFTs, and we're going to talk about that as well, and DAOs and
Hmm. Hmm.
data security a bit, but primarily for crypto, especially the exchanges, which have moved out.
See, I cannot speak on behalf of the entire industry, but I can only share my experiences which I've seen so far.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a mass exodus happening in terms of knowledge, in terms of talent. People are moving outside. It's because of the lack of regulations. The lack of regulation is what we already discussed. The reason of lack of regulation.
Absolutely.
Yes, there should be a process in which you should expedite it, or you should at least give some sort of security to the entrepreneurs and to the industry. What Telangana right now is doing, they created a sandbox. You come to
Mm-hmm.
us, you manufacture, we'll take care of the rest. That's
Mm-hmm.
something like that should happen on a national level to retain the knowledge, to retain the talent that we have. We, as a country, as on date, we can be the leaders in Web3 regulation,
Yeah.
but we are doing it so slow that it is just it is becoming frustrating for the industry, and that is the reason why they are choosing to move on. There are places which are offering you far lenient regulations. There is, I mean, of course, lenient regulations in the beginning, which then develops into a lot more stringent regulations. We've seen with Singapore, we've seen with Dubai, we've seen with BVI, and we have seen with Cayman Islands. They've all come up with different regulations gradually. So first
Yeah.
they invite you to come. They invite you to build in their country, and then when you have finally built it, they bring on regulations and they superimpose them on. So then
Yeah.
people start moving from there to different places.
Yes, exactly.
So this is a
Because
multi-jurisdictional approach as in date you have to take.
yeah. So what that tells me, I think I was reading this, something in Eastern Europe. I think Estonia or some other country where they are
Hmm.
inviting as well. Initially, they were inviting a lot of people. So I think it's Estonia, but I may be wrong there. But there's definitely an Eastern European country which was very easy for people to set up businesses and all.
Gibraltar, I
Right?
think.
Yeah. So,
Gibraltar,
so
Gibraltar.
but the challenge is, so then what does people do, right? Like, so there's no country per se which will be there for a long term vision. See, no founder starts a company for a short term vision. You start for 6 months, 1 year, and then kind of close the shop and move ahead, right? Especially when in a new industry which is taking shape, everybody wants to take, I'll not say everybody, but some who are courageous enough to take advantage of the first mover point, that you're the first one trying to set up some things, and once it's supported by the government, liked by people, you have a scope, like a future scope. So we've seen the same cycle in web 1, web 2, right? So what options does it leave? I mean, on the other hand, I feel that it's an advantage that the government is taking slow and steady steps. That's still better than in the fallacy of you go to other place, you build up this whole thing, and then you are being asked to control, right? If you do an that comparison, at least for me, I see that taking some persevering here might be an
Hmm.
advantage, right? But what does it leave with the entrepreneur side of, because again, I'm asking from a lawyer point of view, like how much work will people have to do from law, moving from one country to the other, and that's why we wanted somebody from taxation, but unfortunately she could not join, right? So
So for lawyers, the work increases. It increases
yes.
manifold. Now you have to say earlier it was just we are starting one particular jurisdiction. India, we know about the
Yeah.
law in India. Sab pata hai
Yes.
mujhe. Now
Yeah,
when
I know.
somebody comes to you from the industry
Yeah.
side, now they ask us, yeah, yeah, buddy, we have to incorporate our company.
Yeah.
First question, what kind of company? So if they say, okay, XYZ,
Mm-hmm.
then the real work starts. Let's find you a favorable jurisdiction first,
Yeah.
not the favorable jurisdiction for incorporating a company, but somebody which will enable you to use blockchain and issue tokens and all that. Because
Uh-huh.
blockchain, the entire Web3 cryptocurrency is something which is a part and parcel of it. You cannot ignore that part.
Yeah.
It it is something like you have a hand which has 5 fingers. It is there. You cannot ignore that there are only 4 fingers. I'll exclude the thumb. You
Yeah.
cannot do that. You have to
Yes.
carry them all along. So
Mm-hmm.
then the real work begins. Find a jurisdiction where you first incorporate a company which
Mm-hmm.
will enable you to issue tokens, etc. and deal with the cryptocurrency. Then you find another country which will enable you to control all those assets. Then you have to find another country which will enable you to have a banking partner. So the jurisdiction study That increases manifold, and it is also a challenge for us lawyers. There are two constraints over here. The first is time, which we run short on. The
Mm-hmm.
second is resources. A lawyer
Yeah.
practicing in Singapore will, of course, have way more resources than us. We'll only read whatever is available on the internet and then have our own interpretation of it. Similar way, if Singapore lawyer has to come to India, he'll only have to read the law that is available. He cannot understand what is happening in general in India. So that is one
Absolutely.
big challenge which we face. And the industry people will also have to understand that if you know you cannot depend upon us for everything, because yes, lawyers will help you, of course we'll help you to the tooth and nail, we'll fight for you, but we will need time, and because we'll need time, and we'll also need to understand how the law over there works, because everything is evolving. In 3 months the
Yeah.
entire situation changes. So for example,
Yeah.
in Panama we have seen they passed a law, they went to the
Mm-hmm.
Supreme Court while we were working for a client of ours. The entire
Okay.
law changed. The Supreme Court dismissed it. They did that. So entire thing changed. In 3 months, if everything is changing, then it becomes challenging for us as well to keep up with the pace. That is very important, and that is where we lawyers also have to do a little hard work, extra work, and that's how things are
Wow.
going to work for us lawyers. Increases the work of
Interesting.
lawyers, to be very honest.
App, well, increases and gets you more moolah as well,
No,
to some
does
extent.
not. It does not. It does not.
No,
It
no,
should. It
interesting.
should definitely.
It should, ideally, it
It
should.
should.
Yeah, so no, but I see, from a business point of view, I see that there is an opportunity of creating a DAO within, taking lawyers from, especially crypto or a decently regulated countries. Say, you can take, say, Singapore, UK, or different other countries. Some lawyers from India, and put together them into a sort of a think tank group, right?
Hmm.
Where they can actually do that.
Hmm.
And I'm sure. I mean, I may be correct here, but I presume that the lawyers would not have the time to do that. Somebody from the business side will have to do it, you know, to get that done.
Any all the places we have, I mean, on Discord there are groups, on Telegram there are groups which is called as this legal now, which is
Mm-hmm.
basically a DAO of all the lawyers situated in different jurisdictions.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge over here arises is how do you identify that person is a lawyer or not?
Yeah, exactly.
Because again, it's decentralized, you have to put a face to somebody. A person
Yeah,
comes, introduces themselves as a lawyer. How do you identify? I
yeah,
can give you very well all my fake documents. I can just sit on the phone, one Photoshop, make something and give it across to prove that I'm a lawyer.
yeah. But
How do you
yeah,
identify? Is somebody from that particular jurisdiction needs to go and check that whether you qualify as a lawyer or not. There, the
exactly.
entire a decentralized thing and all that comes into play. But yes,
It,
that's something which must happen in the future, and in
yeah,
clusters again, in clusters.
see, nothing will be done in, say, one size fits all. It'll always be,
Hmm.
especially in evolving, uh, you know digital technology will always be in clusters. There will be early adopters, there are people who will be courageous enough, who want to take the risk, build some things, right? So so let's assume, say, from your point of view, because being in the industry for some time now, and helping already clients setting up companies or entities in different jurisdictions across the globe, what are some specific regulations, that could be implemented in India to regulate Web3? I mean, from your point of view, it's purely notional. How do you see doing it?
The first and the foremost should be to provide the industry with a cushion to
Mm-hmm.
allow them to make mistakes
Mm-hmm.
and to help them come out of it if they have actually made a mistake and have landed into it.
Mm-hmm.
Have specialized agencies to look after fraud. As on date, you don't have any kind of specialized agency which can really understand how the blockchain works and then take an action.
Mm-hmm.
Today, like the challenge I'm telling you, it's a basic, very ground level challenge. I have
Mm-hmm.
a complaint.
Mm-hmm.
My client has been duped of say lakhs and lakhs of rupees in
Mm-hmm.
cryptocurrency. I
Mm-hmm.
go to a police station. With my complaint. If I tell him that this has happened with me, I am dealing in cryptocurrencies. The first thing is, it is illegal. How can you do it?
Mm-hmm.
Forget about that my client has suffered a loss and all that. No, the question that they say, this is illegal. Cryptocurrency in itself illegal. वो illegal है,
Mm-hmm.
वो तो मतलब ऐसी चीज है जिसको तुम छू ही नहीं सकते. It's a
But
taboo.
there's no laws marking it
There
illegal,
is
right?
no
But
law.
there's no law, right?
No. RBI came with a ban. The Supreme Court removed the ban. The ban
Mm-hmm.
was also specifically limited to a different kind of thing. As on
Okay.
date, there is no ban in dealing with cryptocurrency. Yes, there are law, you have to comply with it, pay the taxes and all, but
Yes.
you're free to do with it. But there is
Okay.
no law to help you when you land into trouble, when you
Okay.
have actually been scammed. That law should come as soon as possible. That is
Mm-hmm.
one way of securing the industry, because we will see it as a person getting affected as an individual, but that
Mm-hmm.
individual will have a dominoes effect on the entire industry. One
Mm.
person not having the faith in its own agency, in its investigating agency, to help him out when he's actually landed in trouble, will of course loosen the faith in other people who will may in the future try to buy or deal with the uh, cryptocurrency exchange or buy it from them, getting the just what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
that is a major challenge over here, which is have a specific agency to deal with the cryptocurrency fraud and scam cases. That's
Mm-hmm.
very important as well. The entire industry is going to suffer if there is no agency as such.
Mm.
Okay,
Okay.
this is one. Second is of course provide them with a cushion, and of course make the industries and those people I mean they're calling themselves platforms, make them liable for whatever happens on their particular platform. If the
Yeah.
information is on their platform, it should muster their internal mechanism of how the information is being shared across.
Yeah.
You cannot just say that okay, I'm just a platform and my liability over here ends. I'm just connecting two people. No, if you're connecting two people, you must know their background. Do some underwriting. In the banking sector, it is followed. NBFCs they follow the underwriting principle. Of course, there are risks everywhere. There are risks, but you have to follow that underwriting principle. You can't just say that I'm just complying with the AML and KYC requirements. That is a given thing. You must follow it. It's a good governance practice. The government
Yeah.
should not come ahead and
Absolutely.
say that you are doing something, so please take their data. Please take the at least do some basic KYC of them. The government should not come ahead and say it. It's a basic understood thing. I am
Yeah.
talking to you. I must know you. I must have met you. I
Yes.
just cannot speak to a blank screen out there, having a
Absolutely.
completely different voice modulated voice. But that's not how things are going to work. That is going to break the industry. It's not going to let the ecosystem survive. So these
Mm.
three are the basic things which I think that provide them with a cushion, make them liable, and provide the individuals with some form of agency to basically support them. And those
It,
agencies should also be uh, some who have a little bit of empathy for the entire industry.
yeah.
Because of course, if a client loses the money, if a person loses the money and he goes to a specialized agency, this agency should not go and just start uh, putting pressurizing the industry as a whole. They
Yeah.
should actually catch the perpetrator. Industry should not be held generally responsible for that. That is where the cushioning things come. Give them a little bit
Absolutely.
of cushion. Let them understand that.
No, I think these are fantastic points, Chandan, that I see it as a two-pronged approach. One from the, regulation and the countryside, where, the government systems put in place to give everybody cushion and feel comfortable, rather. And the
Correct.
other is the responsibility of the platforms which are being, built
Correct.
within the, the Indian jurisdiction or the country,
Correct.
where they take ownership, of what they are doing, how they are doing it, how they're helping people and stuff like that, and how they're going to promote their business. So that's where I think a lot of education also will come into the picture from the platform side, to educate a lot of their users, right? Especially the
That's
first time
paramount.
users. Absolutely. And it's not only cryptocurrency, I'll shift a little bit to NFTs now, right?
Hmm.
So NFTs again is a very, very, easily accessible thing. See, I come from a design background, and NFTs, when I started reading about it initially, way back 3, 4 years, 4, 5 years ago, uh, it was for me just a design, right? You
Hmm.
create design in anything, in any form, shape or form, or you can create a, like a real painting and then take a photo of it and create an NFT out of it, right? Host it on publicly, like OpenSea, Rarible, or whatever different platforms. So do you see do you say put them both, like especially NFTs, cryptocurrency, in the same chain in terms of regulation, or they are different? How the regulation in India sees them.
Same thing.
Same thing. Okay.
Not a part.
So
Not a different part. Same thing.
okay. So even when I'm not directly dealing in cryptocurrencies, I'm, like an NFT holder, or, I do NFT drop as a loyalty point or something like that. So if that is stolen, right, essentially people can just take a photo, so you are an artist, right? And there can be somebody who can take a photograph, who understands technology better, can take a photo and put that as an NFT. And what happens is, with the blockchain, it's kind of, it's linear, right? It's posted with the date stamp and time and everything. It says,
Correct.
okay,
Correct.
so I'm the first one doing it. And a lot of artists face that, when NFT started to take off a couple of years ago. So there is no way that a person can get respite, because this can be infringement, right? This can be, there are a lot of students, who are coming up with fantastic painters, right? And somebody there goes, clicks a photograph, puts it as an NFT, and then you can't fight it out, right?
Correct.
Wow.
So
So
see,
that's.
um,
Mhm.
I think what you said, it is infringement, of course, and there are artists who are doing it. There is no again, there is no way to prevent that from happening. Yes, in this case, there is a law which can help you, because I don't know
Okay.
when the entire IPR laws were being framed. Whoever framed it was a visionary in my perspective.
Hmm.
Because even if it is a digital art form, forget
Hmm.
everything. NFT, I would just on the technological terms, I would just say it's a software.
Okay.
Leave it at that. But the digital image, or that image from which the digital image has been made,
Created. Yeah.
created,
Hmm.
that particular image will, of course, have its own share of IPR.
Okay.
And if that is being violated, you have the law. And the copyright and intellectual property law in India is one of the best.
Okay.
It is one of the best.
Interesting.
So, of course, now the question here will come: how do you justify that this particular art form is something which you drew, or
Exactly.
it belongs to you first?
Yeah.
And if somebody, of course, there are platforms which go ahead and copy it and then they sell it off as their own. And this also happens in the Web2 industry as well. In the music industry, we
Yeah,
see
yeah,
it.
absolutely. There are
Yeah,
a lot of I mean, especially in music, right? You copy
correct,
somebody's,
correct,
and
correct.
then you remix it or whatever, and then you
Correct.
sell it off
That becomes a unique art form in itself.
in
So
itself.
that unique art
Exactly.
form in itself, yeah. So if I am making, suppose there is a painting behind you, that Buddha
Uh-huh.
statue, Buddha painting is behind you. Who knows
Yeah.
who made it? So
Exactly.
once I have made it, and if I really want to monetize it, that's the first thing. I may not want to monetize it. I would say, yeah, okay, it's fine. It should be made available to the public. But if I really want to monetize it, I should get it copyrighted in my name. Get all the design rights that I can. And then if somebody violates the right, then I have the law with me. I am very strongly armed with the law. I can just go and I can just finish the entire person. That way, the
Oh,
Copyright Act, the Trademark Act is very, very, very helpful. It does not
fantastic.
even take you years and years to get a judgment in your favor. Max to max 6 months, and then it's done. A John Doe order is being passed in your favor. Go ahead and sue everybody who has violated that.
Okay.
Now, the
Interest.
question here will come: how do you do that? Because,
Yeah,
of course,
exactly.
one,
Because normal artists won't know about,
yeah,
that India has
they
such
won't.
a copyright law. I
Yes,
did not know. I've been in the industry design for such a
yes, they
long
won't
time.
know. They would not know. For example, you created something and you want it to be
Mm-hmm.
monetized.
Mm-hmm.
You give the terms of monetization in that particular art itself. You're now we
Mm-hmm.
come to the NFT part. You're making an NFT. I'm saying, chalo.
Yes,
Make an
exactly.
NFT. NFTs are basically smart contracts. It will be governed by the smart contracts.
Yes.
Supplement those smart contracts with a traditional contract. I would again say there is no way out if you don't have a traditional contract. Smart contracts
Okay.
can only help you to the extent when it really comes with dealing with transactions and keeping the money and keeping the financial part fair and secure. But if a
Mm-hmm.
dispute arises, well, the smart contract will not be able to help you. It's a software.
Okay.
Let's be very clear about it. It's a software. Software will not be able to help you. The
Mm-hmm.
terms and conditions are coded in the software. But I mean, good luck to you going and explaining it to someone that this is a code. This is how the code works. Good luck to you. If you have a
Yeah.
contract which is basically there, which the judiciary understands, the
Yeah.
jurisprudence is set around it. It's very easier to explain it to them. Have it, supplement it with a contract. Give all the terms and conditions in writing. Tell them what happens if you breach it. You are secured. You are safe and secure. You're sound. Somebody breach it, take them to the court. US, they started it, already doing it. India, we're lacking a little behind.
Yeah, but I
Artists,
think it'll happen. It's
it should
getting there,
happen.
right?
It should
Yeah.
happen. And like you're talking about young kids who are making these kind of arts. The
Yeah.
colleges, the schools, they should support them.
Yeah.
They should
In
form a cluster. And
education.
yes, they should form a cluster actually. They should form a cluster and incorporate all that art into that particular cluster. Give the rights of those particular
Mm-hmm.
art forms to the children who have made it. If somebody violates it, let not the child go there and sue the person. That college or that institution particularly, they can go and sue it. Because Child will give them all the rights because the child is a minor. The parents will have all the rights. But if
Yeah.
yes, if there are college children who are more than 18 years, they cannot go ahead and sue. They won't have that kind of money. The
Yeah.
college will have that kind of money. Let the college support
Absolutely.
it, or let some form of institution be there, an art institution be there, which can go ahead and support it. Let the industry develop something like that. Go ahead,
Yeah.
support them. The law is there. NFT is the law is there. It can help you out, but you have to supplement it
Exactly.
with the traditional contract. Do a little bit of legal stuff in that. Don't just purely depend upon smart contract. It's not going to help you out.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I had a question on that. Follow up. So what are the legal implications of smart contracts for businesses in India? So this is particular to say NFTs, but smart contracts are used in a lot of other ways as well, right? So is there any legal implication of using smart contracts the way it is built? There are different languages. I know it's getting a little technical, but do you see any implication of smart contracts as a technology per se or as a use case? Because smart contracts themselves are nothing, right? They're just a programmable code built on a particular blockchain. So do they have their independent? I mean, I don't know. You can tell me there.
It's just a fantastic question. First of all, one thing if I'll have to just remove the basic thing. The simple word is contract. Remove that.
Con. Yeah.
When you bring contract into a picture,
Yeah.
you start thinking about that. I have a contract. I must have some rights.
Yes.
This is not a kind of smart contract. It
Yes.
is a term given to a particular kind of code.
Code.
Somebody
Yes.
sometime they would have must have thought that okay, I am building something on Python, so I'll name
Hmm.
this thing the entire programming language as Python. It is
Yeah.
not the actual Python which is there. So this again,
Yeah.
it's smart contract. It's not something which is a contract in itself. It's just a programmable code to
Hmm.
facilitate the transaction between two parties. Facilitate major
Automatically.
transactions. Yes,
Yeah.
major transactions. I don't have to come to you. I don't have to, shake hands, give you money, you give me the product. No, I don't have to do that. There is smart contract. Smart contracts will have a huge impact on the shipping industry. I
Hmm.
think it has already started happening in some clusters. I'm not very
Yeah.
sure of which places, but it has a lot of application in the shipping industry, particularly when a ship comes to dock and it unloads the goods. That is the
Hmm.
place where all disputes start taking place. You go to Mumbai, you go to the Bombay High Court, you will have many cases like these, shipping cases,
Okay.
maritime cases, because that is why the Bombay High Court has a jurisdiction to deal with the maritime cases. These are all the
Hmm.
issues over there. Smart contract will, of course, to a certain extent, reduce these. But smart contract again does not have any kind of legal backing to it. Smart contracts are just a code written to facilitate your transactions. Please supplement it with a legal document. Include all the terms of the legal document if you can in the code. I know it is going to be very expensive. People will have to pay gas fees for that. So again,
Yes.
if you want to do that, it is up to you. But if you just want to have a traditional contract supplemented by a smart contracts, yes,
Hmm.
this much I think it can be written in the contract that all these terms, coding languages is fine, etc. But in case of dispute, refer to this. There is a dispute,
Hmm.
go refer to the smart contract. Sorry, the traditional contract.
The physical,
Have
yeah,
somebody,
con.
yes, the physical contract. Have somebody audit your smart contract if you are trying to get into a business. Don't just play hunky dory. Okay, everything is fine. Smart contract is there. हमने तो लिख दिया, copy कर दिया, यहाँ से कर दिया, वहाँ से कर दिया, and then I release it into the public domain. If
Yeah.
you're doing that, please mention that the resources from where you're copying it. Otherwise, again, you will land in a soup. Don't do that. Avoid these kind of basic mistakes. Supplement it with a basic contract, with a basic legal document. You are secure. Even if the smart contract does not give you any rights, you land into a legal dispute. You will have that contract to support you, to help you out of that particular case. Smart contract is something which is very technical. You will have those tech people guide you along, guide the lawyers on how this thing works. The lawyers will be able to explain it to the judges before whom these cases are being, whosoever hears those cases, because
Hmm.
now it is only on the part of contract, nothing else. Please do that. It will save a lot of time, save a lot of energy, until and unless the technology evolves to such a place where you can have everything in the smart contract. So you don't need a traditional contract. That day might come or may not come. We'll get to know.
We'll see, as the world and so to adding concurring with your point, Surya, he's also a dear friend. He's also building a company
Oh yeah,
called
I know.
Riser,
Yes,
right?
yes. I've spoken to Surya several times.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So he agrees, with that combination of traditional contracts as well as smart contracts, right? Until we hear digital law guidelines, which is again, coming back to the law point of view. And so I think so the industry is ready, people are ready, because there are a lot of companies talking around it. I think it's just the a bit from the, how do I say it, from the regulation point of view, which needs to catch up a bit. I'm sure it must be doing a due diligence because it is a mammoth task. But so let's get to the next. So the next point for me is that any company building in Web3, right, using DAOs, using NFTs, using blockchain, what are the or how can businesses and individuals comply in India with Web3 regulations? What can they do, when they're setting up a shop here,
Pay
or what
taxes,
they
comply
should
with the
do?
basic point. Pay taxes,
Yeah.
basics.
Okay.
Pay your taxes, comply with the basic rules and regulations which are already there in the public
Mm-hmm.
domain. It is
Mm-hmm.
basically KYC and AML, anti-money laundering forms.
Yeah, yeah,
Perform if you really want to set up a shop in India and do business in cryptocurrency. I'm talking about
yeah,
cryptocurrency in general. Comply with all these things. Do your underwriting. Don't become a escrow account that okay, please everybody you come to us, deposit money with us, and then we'll do that. If you want to do it, it's a very good thing. But then you have to comply with more regulations. And then of course, see from a business point of view, if there is a startup who is doing this kind of work, they would want traction.
yeah,
They the first and foremost thing a company works is for their shareholders. The shareholders will not give two hoots about it how you're doing all these things.
yeah.
Startup will want a traction. Traction will only come when you make things seamless. If today
Mm-hmm.
I'm including more and more regulations, more and more steps, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H,
Yeah,
traction will gradually start reducing. They'll shift to a different platform. But the
yeah,
entire industry will have to understand that at this point it is not about gaining traction. It is gaining traction with doing a basic due diligence. There is no law which is going to compel you to do a little bit of due diligence as on date.
yeah.
But you must do that. Do a little bit of underwriting whosoever is coming on your platform if you're basically trying to deal with it. This is only
Absolutely.
talking about cryptocurrency. Now you come
Mm-hmm.
about the other forms of tech business. Do it.
Yeah.
NFTs, do it. You don't need cryptocurrencies now to buy NFTs. You can buy it from fiat currencies.
Absolutely. There are
Smart
a lot of
contracts is there.
on ramp and
Yes,
off ramp companies available
yes,
to do
yes,
that.
yes. So I don't know if you, of course, you must have heard about Saurav Raj.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know.
He's a
Tokenize.
pioneer in all the, yes,
Yeah,
he's a pioneer in all of these things. He says he told me we were having a discussion long time ago. He said that it is very easy, sir. We can start build an NFT and people can pay fiat and then they can collect it. We
yeah,
will supplement those NFTs with smart contracts as well as additional legal terms so that you can go ahead and start doing it. Do that. It's easy now. Cryptocurrency is a separate set of business, but NFTs, tokenizing the market, tokenizing real estate, tokenizing real world assets, do it. It's very easy to do it in India right now.
oh
You
yeah.
just
So
have to
I think
comply with
even
the basic laws. Basic
exactly,
laws,
and
as
I
in
think
going to
yes,
the SR, sub registrar's office, getting your land registered, and then everything the Companies Act will take care of. There are compliances which
abs-
you have to mandatory comply with, but there is nobody. See, if I have a company, I'm a shareholder
yeah,
in the company. I
yeah,
buy a plot of land and I can invite 10 people to join my company and I can give them 10% share in that particular property. That's
yeah,
how the entire thing is going to work. I'm not going to delve a lot of details because, it's basically my bread and butter. So, but this is the basic idea
yeah,
which I can give. This is how you guys can do it. You can rent it out, you can sell it off, you can just rent out to 10 different people or you just rent it out to one single entity and then, divide the profits among all of you. Yes, of course, you will
interesting.
need a lot of contracts. You will need to comply with the basic company law, the MCA regulations, but it is a doable thing. And I think RealX has done it recently.
RealX, yeah, I was about to talk about it. RealX as a company has done their initial transactions for
Yeah,
fractional
yeah,
ownership, right? And I had a tons of questions around that as well. So how, so but that we'll take it sometime later for fractional ownership. But so
correct.
you're saying that coming to the question of smart contracts, they don't have a legal entity themselves. They need to be supplemented with a physical contract or or any sort of technology based in Web3 using smart contracts wherever it can infringe on personal rights or intellectual property rights or something like that. It needs to be supplemented with a physical contract. So that
Correct.
gives you, from an Indian jurisdiction point of view, that gives any individual or a company certain relief that there is some standing from the law side which will support them, right?
Exactly.
Interesting. And now
If you are planning to do business in India. Otherwise, you can move to Singapore, Hong Kong, and those territories. They have started recognizing NFTs as a form of property. So you're free. Go ahead, do business over there. But then also, those people are smart. They know how the intellectual property works. They
Yeah.
supplement each and every NFT, each and every smart contract with a host of legal documents.
Oh, wow. So
Recent
that is a
judgments go and
bigger
yes,
challenge, right?
yes, it's a bigger challenge. But again, if say you have invested 100 rupee and you have lost
Hmm.
the entire amount of it, you
Hmm.
know by legally if you are going up by it, we will recover 80% of it. 20% of
Oh,
course. Take it as a business loss. I'm not saying that you should take it as
it
a business
will.
loss. But
Yeah. But
it's a risk to keep in your mind. But at
you
least
have
you
to
will be
take
able
that.
to recover that 80 rather than losing the entire 100.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's good. So how is now, let's go back to the, there are certain other bills which are tabled now. How do you see the Indian government stance on data privacy impact on Web3?
I have
Right.
not read the bill. I have not read the bill so
Okay.
far. Not read the.
Uh,
It has recently, as we're speaking, it has become an act. Now I'm going to read it.
okay. Yes, because
Yeah,
yeah,
because
once it becomes
yeah,
an act.
because last 2 weeks has been so busy for me, so occupied. I've been traveling, doing this and that, and I've got
Uh,
zero time to read this. Even in fact, there are three criminal codes which have been introduced in the parliament very recently, yesterday itself,
mhm.
abolishing sedition and all that. I've still not been able to read it completely, and it's a core
Okay.
area of mine. It's a very interesting area of mine. Criminal law is one of my very it's very close to my heart. I like reading and like knowing about how the criminal law in India works because this
Yeah.
also deals with a lot of how the human psychology works. So it's an interesting area.
Exactly.
I've still not been able to read that, but yes, I have to. I mean, the next 1 week or so, I'll be completely thorough with the data protection, and then I'll probably write something on LinkedIn on how
Sure.
the
So then I'll probably bring you. I thought, having some lawyers today would be the right thing to, ask this question. But I
zero
think,
knowledge.
too soon, I think,
Too soon,
because
zero knowledge
obviously
about it.
you guys need time, also.
We need to read that. I mean, of course, the people they've started reading about it. They've started issuing newsletters about it. Commendable
Yeah.
work that guys are doing over there. But I have not read it so far. But
Cool.
I can,
Interesting.
probably try to answer the basics. Of course, data sharing is going to become a lot easier.
Hmm.
In the same time, it is also becoming a little bit of. There is also a lot of constraint which is going to be there. The
Hmm.
government will, of course, have a easy time in recovering all the data when it comes to national security. This much
Hmm.
is something which I've read in how you have to share the data. Cross-border data sharing, that is something which I have to read, which I have to see whether it is applicable in this area or not. But in terms of Web3, uh, in terms of all the cryptocurrency exchanges, we have recently seen that now they are also reporting entities under the PMLA Act.
Hmm.
They are now going to be compliant. If the government asks you to share data, they will have to comply with it. They will immediately have to share the data because at that point in time, of course, this will also lead to having a better investigating agency to understand how the entire thing works and understand the basic uh, how the scam basically takes place.
Exactly, and so only then they can probably support you, because if they understand
Correct.
the mechanics of how a fraud or a scam is done, they're better equipped to deal with it and kind of prevent it also going forward.
Because the industry will have to share the data as on date.
Yeah.
If an agency comes to you, they say you give me data, you give us notice, I give them notice, they will might go ahead and challenge it. They'll not release the data. Of course they should not,
Yeah.
it's privacy. But when it comes to these kind of cases in which there some fraud has taken place and I go and report it to the government will take action. Go to the industry, go to that particular exchange, ask them for data, give it to me, boss, of this particular person only.
Yeah,
Of course, it
you
should
don't
not
want
be
for
so
everything.
bullish that I want everything from you. That would
Yeah.
also, demoralize the industry. But yes, particular fixed set of data of this particular person, of this particular transaction, I want it from you. Industry
Hmm.
will have to be compliant. They will have to release that. There is no saying no, no, no. I'm not going to do it. Do it, please do
In-
it.
Interesting. So that in a way, enables the cushion that we spoke, early on in the discussion, right? A bit of cushion for the people, consumer, as well as the industry, right? That okay, so we are putting some regulations in place, maybe not directly, maybe not immediately, but slowly, step by step. So I think this is one sort of a cushion for people, consumers, like who get defrauded or scammed,
Correct,
and they have no support from the exchanges to some extent,
correct.
or
See,
minimal
at
support.
the
I'll not
end,
say no support, but
yes,
minimal support.
very minimal. I mean, we have seen cases in which they are zero support, lending zero support,
Yeah,
freezing their accounts for baseless reasons. So that
yeah.
thing should, it should go away. I understand
It,
that these are financial companies, how they work and all that thing behind the scenes,
uh-huh.
but
Yeah.
this should not happen because at the end, A consumer is somebody on whom the entire industry is dependent upon.
Yeah.
If you don't give the rights, if you don't protect the rights of the consumers, your entire industry will extinguish.
Yeah.
There was a
Eventually,
point
absolutely.
in time, yes,
Yeah.
I used to buy Natras pencils a lot. Right now, I don't.
Okay.
The sale decreases with the consumer's interest going in a different direction. The
Yeah.
same thing will happen to this entire industry. Provide them with some kind of cushion, provide them with some kind of security. Not just the industry, but the government in general will have to do it. Industries cannot, cannot do everything on their own. The government
Yeah.
will have to, of course, do it. Provide the consumers with some form of cushion. Right now, the consumers don't have any kind of. They don't even know that whether we actually translate as a consumer, actually we translate as an investor. What are we if we are investing in this platform? Do I have the Consumer Protection Act guiding me? Do I have insurance regulations guiding me? Do I have
Hmm.
SEBI regulations guiding me? Nothing. I'm just on the basics, which I already have: IPC, IT Act, and all those old jurisdictions. Nothing specialized. We have to understand this is a specialized area. It's a niche area. That is why we have a
Very
handful of
niche.
people working in this very niche area. So a niche
Oh yeah.
area will have a niche agency to deal with these kind of frauds. Like
Yeah.
you
So
have CBI,
yes.
ED. You should have something for that. Something for the Web3.
That
Special powers.
interesting. Absolutely. So with the niche, with on a lighter note, I was trying to find a, a tax consultant or somebody who runs does taxation for Web3 people, right, within the industry, and I could find only 4 to 5 people. I mean, that's how super niche is. And
That's how niche is.
I was looking for a woman, to join our panel today. Unfortunately, she could not join. But so to have somebody else, like from a one point of view, have a different say, and but I could not find a single woman, tax who deals in tax in Web3 in India, apart from the original guest who was supposed to join. It's
Hmm.
very surprising. It's very niche. So I see that because there's so less demand, so less like availability, so there's an opportunity also for a lot of people, especially the CAs. Like essentially the CAs will uh, you know uh, translate and understand things better from a taxation point of view, when somebody needs to file taxes and all, right? But it's interesting. That's how super niche is. I'm assuming it's same for lawyers. Maybe the numbers is a little higher, but still it's not as generic as I personally I know a few Supreme Court lawyers, like in my friend circles, extended family circle, but none of them deal in Web3. Some is in litigation, some is in something else.
Yeah,
But
that's also because of the reason that the the law has evolved.
yeah,
Litigation has been there for a very long time. This is a very niche area.
absolutely.
Why would
Yeah,
I want to leave my comfort zone and venture into a completely different area where, because I'm in the comfort
you,
zone? At the end, I would want some comfort for myself.
yeah,
I would want that. So I would not want to say, yeah, my business is going, धंधा सही चल रहा है. Why
yeah,
should I
absolutely.
jump into a completely uncharted territory which has nothing? Zero sense. I don't even know
Yeah,
if I'll be able to make any kind of money in that. Okay,
yeah,
I have time I can devote it over there. So I mean, of course, talk about me. I am also working with different sets of people. There
I'm
is
sure.
litigation, there is corporate, there is startups, catering to different startups. You know, being on board and very deeply working with some startups, having NDAs with startups. So this is something which we have to do. That's the bread and
Yeah,
butter. How do we can't jump into a
absolutely.
completely uncharted territory and expect anything from it. So that's how the entire thing is working, and that is, I think, the reason, because you have it's so niche and just a handful of people, and also because the industry does not know whether how do you find these people. Like, for example, let's take your example. You went around, you started, discuss with so many people. You're being very heavily involved in the entire industry, couldn't find
Yeah,
anybody. But that's how
yeah,
niche it is. We can't find anybody. This might be the situation the industry itself is facing, that okay, we need lawyers, but we can't find anybody. So we end
exactly.
up having somebody on our board because we need somebody to explain to us. There are
Absolutely.
people are not there, and it's true. Take for example entire country, and you will have a handful of lawyers who are in Web3, who actually
Oh
know how the
yes,
industry works,
exactly. And that's what
not
I
just the
see.
tech side, the industry side,
Yeah,
but the law side as well.
yeah,
Because you need to understand the industry. I just cannot say that, yeah, if somebody comes to me from the industry, they say, Chandan, we need this. I would not say that, okay, I'll come on board and I'll start helping you with this and I will need this kind of money. That's not
Yeah,
how it is going to work. The
exactly.
industry for the first 3 years, any kind of startup, for the first 3 years, I don't think so. They will need a lot of legal support. They can work on the basis and of the goodwill of the investors who are investing.
Hmm.
After that, once you are established, then only comes the proper legal support. Before
Yes.
that, bits and pieces of advice and bits and pieces of, so just to make yourself secure that I'm not making any kind of huge mistake. Make
Yeah.
small mistakes. Have to do that.
But
Take risk.
I see that as a challenge as well. So you are heavily involved. You're studying, you're supporting companies, so you have certain experience, especially for legal. See, tech challenges that if there is somebody with half knowledge in tech, what will happen is the code will not run. You'll have somebody senior fix the code, and you can redeploy it,
Correct.
right? Whereas in Web3, it's a different ball game, right? Especially even in code. I'll not get in the tech side, but from a regulation side, if somebody gives you wrong guidance, which is what I'm trying to say is half knowledge is much more. How do I say it?
Dangerous.
Dangerous for people or companies forming with somebody who has half knowledge about Web3 compliance regulation within India, and forget if that company has to deal with multiple countries, setting different things in different countries. So it's a big challenge, right? And that's why maybe there is not a lot of advancement. Like, say, if when Web 2 started taking off in early 2000, there are hordes and hordes of companies coming up, right? And also, I'll also add, it's not everybody on the industry side which is a challenge, but also the scamsters, which kind of given the
Yeah,
industry a
yeah.
bad name. For me to explain that, because our core focus is building on blockchain, so plus we do on metaverses, NFT marketplaces and stuff. For me to make sure that people understand what Web3 I'm talking about is, it takes a time to make them understand that Web3 is not cryptocurrencies,
Correct.
right? That
Correct.
definition and that division is very difficult to explain to people.
Correct.
So how can industry deal with that? I mean, so my question is, coming to the DAO part here, that what are the legal implications, with this kind of availability for decentralized autonomous organizations, popularly known as DAOs, for businesses and individuals setting a shop or a DAO in India?
India does not have a concept of DAO.
Yeah.
Forget it. Don't come to India if you want to set up a DAO. There is nothing. Nobody's going to support you for that. It's a tech thing. It's a tech. It's basically decentralized. You're having different members from different groups, different societies,
Yeah.
coming together and participating in some kind of project, investing in some kind of project in which everybody has a mutual interest.
Yeah, exactly.
This concept is not. It's not there in India. India, DAO is not completely alien concept. In India, there is a
Yeah.
trust. If
Yeah,
you want
trust
to really
concept.
have yourself as a DAO, you have a trust. But then again, trust will have a trustee and seven different things. So the concept of decentralization, it's
Doesn't
not there.
exist.
It does not exist. Because again, if you see, we are talking about decentralization. I want to be very honest with you, everybody who is watching. Decentralization will not be successful with a little bit of centralization in it. As on date,
Yeah. Yeah.
to talk about zero trust, we talk about everything. It cannot be zero trust if there is, you know, complete anonymity.
Yeah.
I have to know the person I'm going to deal with. Basic business sense. I cannot deal with a person I don't. I have no idea about who that person is. How will I deal with that person? So there has to be a bit of centralization in any kind of decentralized entity. I need to appoint a trustee. Okay, that trustee can have anybody, but the
Yeah.
authority to take a decision on behalf of that particular DAO should rest with that particular trustee. I will not be giving any kind of voting rights to any member who comes to my DAO. You come to my DAO, if I've talked about the concept of DAO, you come to my DAO, you
Mm-hmm.
show your interest, you take the token not basis on the money that you're giving. You take the tokens from me basis on the knowledge you have, which you can contribute to the DAO.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, what is a DAO? I mean, I'll gain a lot of money and then I rakpur and I run away. You keep finding me. By the time have found me, have done something, I would have enjoyed my life. So that's not something how it should work. You need to have basics. Basics. You have to have your basics sorted. In India, the DAO concept
Absolutely.
is, I don't know. We should not have a DAO concept in India as of now. Let's
We
evolve gradually.
shouldn't. Yeah.
Let's
No,
evolve
so even
gradually.
now,
It's
I
another
think,
decade.
yeah, so absolutely. So I think instead of forming a complete DAO, it should start as a company. and slowly migrate to a DAO, seeing the interest of people, who are supporting the project, seeing the
Yeah,
interest
yeah,
of people, how much they are, and then you can, share the voting rights and, whatever. And for the native Web2 people, DAOs are essentially, like Chandan mentioned, these are trusts which
trusts.
are supporting a particular concept, but based on blockchain, all the decisions are taken by the members of the DAO. So this is like a polling. I'll give you a very simple example. You want to say change the name of the or so you want to change the design of the logo, that the DAO currently has. So it'll float a question, float a poll, and then based on on the consensus which was defined at the formation of the DAO, that it has to 60%, 70%, whatever. Then the number of people will vote, and if it achieves that consensus point or inflection point, say 70%, then the logo can be changed. Otherwise, it's not. As simple as that. There's
As simple.
definitely a very very bigger things in that, but yeah, that's a very simple definition I try to explain for the Web 2 guys who are watching.
As simply put, that's the entire idea of it.
Yeah,
Just convert it
right.
into a technology point of view. It becomes a DAO.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So technology is kind of driving a lot of things, right, Chandan?
Correct,
So,
correct, correct, correct.
yeah. So I had a fantastic discussion. I think, I have a few, I can go on, talking about things are going, but let's just have a quick rapid fire sort of a questions. These are more like ender questions I have. So your outlook for Web3 growth in India, positive, negative, neutral.
Of course, positive, but down the line, 10 years from now,
Okay. So it's gradually getting to positive.
gradually getting to it. Need to have regulations. Need to support the industry. Need to support the consumers.
Mhm.
Of course, then we'll see positive growth next 10 years, or maybe in the next
Fantastic.
5 years.
Yeah, that's a good vision. 5 years is not much time, from a technology point of view for
Not
an
at all.
industry which is started a couple of years ago.
Correct.
Fantastic. And the last piece, one or two critical piece of advice for people, primarily students or young, freshers, getting into Web3 space right now.
Students, freshers, read a lot about how the entire Web3 domain is working.
Hmm.
Feel free to pick up the brains. If you're in a college, feel free to pick up the brains of your law professors. Even if you're not a law student, go ahead, run around, speak to your law professors, have some friends over there, speak to them, develop a fair understanding of how the legal thing works. Feel free to reach out to TYT partners. You can have our official email ID. You can send in your queries. If we have time, of course, we will take out some time for you guys and we'll respond to you guys. So office at the rate of tytpartners.in. Feel free to reach out to them if you have kind of any kind of legal questions, basically all kind of legal questions. Same thing applies to the students as well, who are building their expertise, or who want to get very deeper into the Web3 thing. Don't just release everything on the internet. First, speak to the seniors in the profession who have spent their sweat and blood. Speak to them how they have navigated the entire thing. Then go ahead and release your data on internet. But it's prone to being stolen very easily. So don't just be very hunky dory and happy and just releasing everything on over there. Do some basic due diligence. Speak to your seniors. Speak to your elders. They'll be able to guide you better. Applies to
Fan-
students as well as freshers as well.
Fantastic. I think that's a very very good point, and I also want to tell people to follow your company. So go ahead, people, connect with Chandan on LinkedIn. You can also visit his company website tytpartners.in, and yeah, reach out to him. I mean, I think when
Okay,
you're
okay.
well
One
informed,
disclaimer. Right now, I'm
yeah.
not a part of QIT Partners. I'm not
Acha,
on their
okay.
board. Okay,
Okay.
so I have an NDA with a startup. Of course, TYT Partners is something which it's my baby. But as on date, for the next few months, don't consider me as a part of TYT Partners. They're working as an independent entity. But yes, if you come to me, I'll definitely guide you to them.
Sure. So then just follow Chandan then.
Yeah.
On
So
LinkedIn, reach out to him on LinkedIn. He's
reach out to me,
super,
and you can reach out to
helpful.
the It's now an LLP, by the way. So you can reach out to
Ah,
the LLP, and you can have. There are other people over there who are also deeply invested in Web3. Go and speak to them.
fantastic. Fantastic. I think that's a good idea. And on that note, Chandan, thank you so much for joining in. It was
Thank
lovely
you. Thank you.
talking to
Thank
you.
you, Alec.
You know,
Yeah, same
yeah,
here.
yeah, as always, whenever we meet in physical or online, it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Always,
And
always, always.
yeah, have a good weekend, man. And thank you so much, viewers, for joining in. Have a great day, and
Thank
talk to
you,
you guys
viewers.
later. Yeah. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.